This conference will now be recorded.
Right, let's discuss what exactly the networking model in the cloud and how we have to segment a network. Like what are the different networks we have. We can define actually ourselves. We can only define private networks. Public networks, it is not under your control, it is fully under Microsoft control. We can only define private networks. Private networks, again, anybody can use around the globe. So, what are private networks we have under our control to build ourselves in the Azure cloud? Private IPs. So, we have A-class IPs, right? A-class private IPs. The A-class private IP starts from 10.0.0.02. It can go up to 10.255.255.255. Okay. And B-class. B-class IP addresses can go up to 172.16.0.0. These are the ranges, guys. You cannot use other than these ranges for internal networking in any company, basically. So 172.31.255.255. This is a B-class private IP address range where you can claim anywhere in the Azure cloud, or anyone can use it again repeatedly to keep their infrastructure secured and privately communicated within the VNets, within the VPNs. 192.168.0.0 to 192.168.255.255, right? So these are the private networks that we have. All over the people in the world, they use these IPs for internal communication. These IPs are anybody can use it. There is no restriction on this. Other than these IPs are fully public, you cannot use as your wish. You have to buy the IPs from the body who sells the IPs. There are regulating body on the IPs. You have to reserve the IP for yourself from that body, and you know these IPs can be utilized by anyone, anywhere, up to them. There is no restriction on these IPs. So let's pick up the one of the IP and then let's talk about that. Try to follow it. A simple thing. We are not getting into 100% of networking, but it is enough to understand. Okay. So example, in Azure cloud, we'll call it as a virtual networks. We call it as a virtual network, or VNets in short form always. Okay. Right. Virtual network. So I'm going to define 10 dot. Here I can define any of that. 10.1.0 dot 10.10 dot or 10.1 dot whatever it is. It has to fall under that. /16. So whatever the IP we are using in current market are IPv4 addresses. IPv6 also came into picture. That is out of our scope anyway. Even I don't know how that network gets segmented. It's a 128-bit IP. It is very big, and like IPv4 is about to exhaust. Like it is over. The complete IP ranges are given to the world already. So that's where IPv6 came into picture, and that is a 128-bit and IP. 128-bit IP, even you can give the whole world 10 times also, it won't exhaust. That's such a big IP range that is going to generate. Anyway, virtual network. Virtual network is something we are, like the IP is divided into 4 octets here. Like 4 octet means this is a 1 octet, which is 8 bits, and this is a 1 octet, it's a 8 bit, and this is another octet, 8 bit, and this one is also another octet, 8 bit kind of. Okay. So each one will have, this is a very big, huge networking. We'll not go into that side. ICND1, ICND2. There are 2 different courses. We'll talk about it. So we are reserved 2 octets by giving 16 here. So this is a 8 bits, these are an 8 bits. So total 16 bits we blocked. So what is it is open for? Only 2 octets are open to build further networking. That's how the networks are always. 2 bits, 2 octets are blocked, 2 octets are actually open for the networking generally. So I'm going to build a subnet out of that network. Subnet 1. Subnet 1 is actually the network itself, 10.1.0.0, but /24 this time. This is going to block This is going to block 3 octets. 3 octets. What can be changed is the last octet. The last octet will release the IPs now. Here in that subnet, the IPs will come out like this: 10.1.0.4. It will start with 4. 0, 1, 2, 3 will be used for internal use. 4 to 251. The IP is up to 250, 254. You can use it. 255 is a broadcast IP address, so it can go up to. Just try to follow. I'll give it one more example. Definitely follow. No need to worry. 10.1.0.5. This subnet can grow up to 10.1.0.254. Now subnet 2 in the same network. Okay. Subnet 2. Subnet 2 will be 10.2.0.0/24. Okay. So here, if you look at this subnet is actually came with 2, because see, sorry, this must be like this. It should be 10.1 and this is a 1.1 this way. This has to be 10.1 should be same across all subnets because it has to follow the network. Each subnet should follow the network. If you look at this one, 10.1.1.4, 1.4, comma, I'll explain. No need to worry. If you don't follow, 10.1.5, this can grow up to 10.1.1.254. If you take about subnet 3, what is the subnet 3 can be like? Can anyone tell? 10.1.2.0/24. And then this will release the IPs 10.1.2.4, comma, 10.1.2.5. This can grow again 10.1.2.254. This way. Subnet 4. Last. Let's talk about that. Can anyone tell by looking at the above? What is the next subnet?
3.
10.1.3.0.
10.1.3.0.
Right. You guys are good enough then. So then this is something we need to understand, guys. How networks can be segmented into subnets. Ten dot one dot 3.5, 3.254. So these subnets can grow up to the same way it is up to 255 subnets. Subnet 255. This will be 10.1.254.0/24. Okay. 10.1.254.4, comma, 10.1.254.5. This can grow up to 10.1.254.254 at the end. Right. If you look at, guys, try to understand this, how it is. See, you have a network of this one, 10.1.0, and we are reserving only these 2 octets. If you look at, if you see everywhere 10.1 is reserved, I mean, it is following every subnet. If it is not following, it is not, this subnet does not fall under this network, as simple as it is. All subnets, whatever you build out of that network, should follow the network reserved bits. It is mandatory. You reserve 10.1 and everyone 10.1 is following. You look at this till this one. What is changing is third octet 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 254. This is getting changed. And what is actually releasing the IP? The last octet is releasing the IP to form the IPs in that subnet. So this way, networks will be defined and segmented, guys. I'll take one more example, and then this should clear out about this.
One question is slash 24 means what is the actual meaning?
/24 means you are blocking 3 octets here. 10.0, 10.1.0, 10.1.1. You see this one 10.1.4, 10.1.5, 1, 1. 3 octets are absolutely same till the end of this IP. You're blocking 3 octets. What is actually can change? The last octet. The last octet is 4, 5, 6 up to 254. It is forming the IP.
Three octets are same. Okay, okay. 8, 8, 8. 8 plus 8 plus 8.
Right. So let's talk about the next VNet. Then you understand. VNet, again, we'll call in the short form VNet, guys. Actually, virtual networks are called as VNets. Always we'll call it as VNets. So just the full form of it is virtual networks basically. So let's take 172 dot. You have it is starting with 16, so I'm going with 17.0.0/16. I'm reserving 2 octets again. What is the first subnet? Can anyone tell? Subnet 1 from the above network.
172
172 dot
17
17 dot
Uh, mm,
0 dot
dot
mm.
1.
No, it is
It
zero only. It is a
starts
network,
from
right?
0.
yeah, yeah.
So 24. So again, this will give the IPs 172.17.0.4. This is the first IP in that subnet. 172.17.0.5 is the next IP. And then 172.17.0.254. This is the last IP in that subnet. Subnet 2, anyone?
172 dot 17 dot
Mm, mm,
1 dot 0.
mm. That's excellent. Very good. So here it will give the IP of 170.17.1.4, comma 170.17.1.5. Again, this can grow up to 117.17.1.254, like that. Subnet 3,
17 dot 2
172.17.2.0
dot 0.
slash. This way, that's it. If you understood this,
Uh, one question. Why it is end with 4? 172 17 0.4, not end with 1 or 0.
0, 1, 2, 3 are reserved for internal use. You cannot use them. That's how it is.
Okay, okay.
They are reserved. That cannot be used for any IP forming basically. And that's how the networking defined. So you have to follow it. So we will see that in practical anyway, how it is releasing the IP. Okay.
Yeah, but there are some gateway 192.168.0.1 and all. So we are using in some router and all.
What one? Which one?
Routers and all IP 192.168.0.1, something like that. I see.
That is a gateways that will be used for the gateways, not for the individual IPs.
Okay.
Okay. They are the gateway IPs. They are
Wait,
the internal routing IPs. Yeah, go ahead.
is it 16 or 24 in the third objective? 172.17.2.0 by 24. Is it 16
Yes,
or
that's
24?
24. You are blocking the 3 octets. That's where you get the actual IP released from that. This is open for, you're blocking only 3 octets. 1 octet is open. That is what is actually giving the IPs to you. Subnet.
Okay.
I'll explain again. Let me write this last as an last one. Okay. 172.17 dot. Okay. 254.0/24. We will see everything in detail, guys. Not to worry. I'll not go fast. Yesterday's I have seen. I mean, I was little fast, so which is fine. I mean, it is intention you need to understand. It's not intention to finish the course anyway. Let's go slow only. Right. 172.17.254.254. Right. So
In the
guys,
heading review you have given /16. Is it what is it? In the
it
heading
is
heading of the VNet.
ah, right. Listen, the
Yeah, why
16
it
is
is
actually,
16 there and 24 down?
yeah, wait, I'm going to talk about that. See, network is actually, you're saying this is a network. This is a network can be segmented into subnets. You have to give a scope for the subnet. What you're telling 16 is these 2 octets are blocked. You cannot change this one. It is a constant. What can be changed? Only these two octets. So these two octets, we are changing it to form the further networking. To change that one, 172.17, it is a constant. Everywhere you see in every subnet, it is constant. What is changing? The third octet, 0, 1, 2,
Your voice
3.
break.
Voice is breaking for everyone? Everyone?
Not for me.
No,
No,
it's
no, it's
audible.
fine.
No,
It's,
no.
no,
No,
no.
it's audible now.
Yeah, actually I have 100 Mbps net, so should not give that issue. Let me check very quickly if I possible. So maybe your side you have the some issue. I'll just want to check. Fine, I'm getting the good speed, not an issue. So, right, try to understand, guys. Here you see clearly that network is blocked 172.17/16. What it is saying, this is one octet. This is another octet. We are saying to the network that two octets are blocked, two octets are open to form the further network. So this is a network. We are segmenting into subnet. Subnet is again releasing the IPs. This is a hierarchy basically. So 16 is saying that two octets are actually reserved for networking. Third octet is actually can be open for changing it. The changing is actually forming the subnets. 0, 1, 2, 3 up to 254, 255 subnets. In fact, 255 subnets, 254. This is changing. The last octet is releasing the IPs out of the subnet. This is the hierarchy: network, subnets, and IPs. Is it clear? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Right. If you clear on this, see guys, anything we plan in the cloud, first thing is network only, not the resources. How we have to control the network and how we can protect the network, that has to be
Ravi,
designed through the network only. Yeah, yeah.
uh, yeah. Uh, we have three classes here, right? So
Hmm.
the VNet is blocked for first two optics, and from the third optic, it is for subnets, whatever the class we take. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Generally, it has a lot of things in it. Actually, it is a big, very big subject. I'm giving a one example here. It can be, it can be divided. Not only this, it can be 17 also. It can be 18 also. This will start with a different number like 1.0 something. There is a huge subject on IP segmentation. So we are not going that way, that far. We are just understanding it. Networks can be reserved, but after that whatever the subnets can be released on the third octet. Generally it is how, this is how it is. The subject is very deep, but what you need to understand, you have a network can be segmented to subnets can release the IPs. So there is a private networking, this is a private networking what we are defining it here, and the IPs can become from the subnets can come from the network. That's hierarchy you need to understand for now. So network segmentation, it is a very big subject basically. So it's not a small subject actually. So we are not getting into there very in detail, but I'm giving a fair idea. This is a valid network, valid subnet, valid IPs. But if you go into very deep of the depth of that networking, there is a lot of things to talk about. So I'm not talking about that. But is this clear actually? This hierarchy, this is plain simple network, what I created here. They're not a very big one. Is this clear?
Yes.
This is
Yes.
clear, right? Right. So now what we're going to do, guys? Today, if you understand today's class, you can really troubleshoot a lot of networking issue in the live environment. This is going to help you like anything. So just uh, focus here. Ask as many questions as you have it. Okay.
What is the
Uh,
difference between class A, B, C?
uh, they are IP ranges. That's it. There is no difference. Kind of. There is a range defined by the IP's body. This is a kind of a. We have three class IPs. You don't know, right? You know, right? A class, B class, C class. A class will start from 10 and it will end with the 171, and 172 onwards all B class IPs. 192 it will end, it will not go further. 192 it will end here. After that you don't find any IPs after 192. This is a defined class IPs basically by the IP's body. There is no meaning in it, but They're given a ranges. You never see the IPs below 10 or above 192. Did you ever seen, guys? No one should, because this is how the IPs are defined by the IPs body. Basically, there is a body who regulate the IPs. Basically, you cannot take just any IP that you wanted. Someone is actually have to buy the IP from the IP body who sell the IP to the market. That is anyway a different story, guys. Okay, there is no meaning like what is A class, B class, C class. It's a range. It's a range they defined. The range falls under 10 to 171 is A class, 172, 191 B class, 192 is a C class. Is it clear? Fine. Let's create a network. Create a virtual network. See, networks is going to be the very important part of the network. I mean security compliance. Why? Because your network is controlling your traffic. What comes in, what goes out, actually only network can control. So you have to aware of on that one. That is the reason we are just going through this. So I'm creating a network in subscription and resource group, and the network VNet means virtual network name is VNet itself. I'm keeping it West India and IP address. So it is giving a default network. I wanted to change that to something else, maybe 172.20. If you use only the private network only, it will work, else it will not work. You have to absolutely remember these networks and place the range in between only. So I'm keeping one range 17.20. 20 falls under private network mode, 16 to 31. So you have to be very careful on that one. If not, your VMs won't connect. If you give a public IP, it won't reject, but it won't connect because that is not a valid subnet. Subnet 1, I'm keeping it. What could be the first subnet actually? 172 dot
0 dot
0 slash
slash
24
24.
is accepting it. If example, if I'm keeping 172.21, what happens? Subnet range is not in the network compatible. Why? The network is different and this network is different. 172.21 is a different network. So you have to be in the same network to form the subnet. Right. Next subnet, subnet 2. So I'm going to create 172.20. Oh, come on. 1.0 slash 24. Right. Right. That's it. So I'm going to create this network. One network, two subnets in it. What we are creating now, right now. So follow carefully, guys. We are going to talk about multiple scenarios now. You have to be very focused here because this is going to help you like anything. The minimum knowledge, but maximum understanding it can give you. Right, it is done. If you look at, it'll show up. So this one, and there are subnets. You see, there are two subnets, and you see there are 251 IPs are allowed to create in each subnet. 251 IPs. So now I'm going to create the VMs inside these networks. Now I'm going to talk about what exactly the networking is for us. I said like I'll discuss networking module all the time, right? So let's finish today. So now I'm going to create a VM called SQL SQL VM01. You can give any name, but I discussed about naming conventions. Like it has to be first, it has to be environment. Next, it has to be location where VM is, then in which project, and what is the server count. So then I'm going to go and pick up the 19 data center generation 2 VM, 2 CPUs, 4 GB RAM, and these are all we know. We discussed all of this, and Azure Spot instance that also have been discussed. That inbound role that I have not discussed. So every time when I was creating the VM, I kept this open. Now I'll keep it none intentionally. What happens if I keep it none? I'm keeping it none. In real world, we always go with an none only. The background rules will allow you to talk. That comes in the tomorrow. Tomorrow, today is basics, guys. Tomorrow is a live corporate network is implementation. How really corporates implement the network in the real world. That comes in the tomorrow class. Okay, for now it is the basics for today. Let's go with the none. What happens with the none? So disk we discussed all of the different things, guys. So I'm not touching anything there. Now come to here. See, this is where we need to be very, very important. If the VM got deployed into one network, you cannot change it. It's not possible. You have to destroy and recreate only is the only possible solution you have it. You cannot migrate a VM from one network to another network by just for switching the network. It is not possible. Okay, you can migrate one VM from one resource to another resource group. It is possible, but not the network. Network will be retained. Network is a different story altogether. If you deploy a VM into wrong network, moving out of the network is not possible. So you have to be very careful when you're deploying itself. Okay, so now VNet, you have to pick up the VNet and you have to pick up the subnet and public IP. Public IP you can change at any point of time. Private IP is the only one which is going to create the issues. You have to be very careful on that point, guys. We can move within the subnet to one subnet to other subnet, but not the network. That's another thing you need to consider. Network cannot be changed, but subnets can be changed if you want after the VM creation also. Anyway, I'm creating subnet 1 and public IP I need it. Without the public IP, we'll see it. How we can connect to the VM without the public IP. That also we have a topic. For now, I'm keeping it. So it is going with this NSG is actually enabled. NSG should be enabled and we are not allowing any port. Public inbound port we are not allowing. We are going with a none. And I need the public IP to connect for today. So after 2 classes, we will see that without the public IP, how we can connect to the VM through the VPN. We can build our own VPN software. I'm going to show that how we can build our own VPN software also. For now, you have to pick up the network. See, there will be runbooks. Every project will have its own associated networks. You have to know the networks. Without knowing it, don't create it. I mean, you must aware of the networks, guys. Without that, I don't recommend you to and go and build a VM. So it must be given to us by the architect or someone where that has to be loaded. Right. So now you selected a VNet, subnet, and public IP, and the NSG is enabled. NSG is going to control your entire traffic, which can come to the VM, which cannot come to the VM. We're going to see that. Public inbound port. I'm not opening any port to talk. Accelerated networking.
One second. This
Yeah.
public IP, we only created that. We created only subnet, no?
Subnet we created, but this public IP, if you don't want the public IP, you can go with the none. It won't assign the public IP.
Okay. How it came automatically? That
It will come
name
by default.
SQL VM1. Okay. Okay.
It will follow the VM name, VM hyphen that IP name. It comes at by default.
Okay. So every machine should have two IP. One is private and public. So in that point of view, it is coming, correct?
And not every machine. Backend machines, we don't need to keep the public IP, only private IP. In the real world, database servers should not have the public IPs. That's what we follow in our environment. Some people can go with the public IP also, but they control the traffic through the NSG. It is possible, but the high recommendation is to all backend database servers, all backend web servers should not have a public IP. Public IPs will pose a threat to the hacking. The hackers can easily hack the public IPs, not the private. Okay. Anyway, that we will see in the VPN concept, like after 2 classes. Okay. Public IP is needed for us to connect for now because I don't have a VPN yet. Next, this inbound I'm not opening intentionally to show how it works. And inbound, let it be no port is open. Accelerated networking something. So only large VMs you can claim this one. See, the selected VM size does not support the accelerated networking. Accelerated networking comes with a GBPS links, very high GBPS links. So it can transfer GBs of data per second. And this comes with the biggest VMs, not with the smallest VMs. The big VM means big data you're going to handle, right? See, you're keeping, like 128 CPs and 1 TB RAM, assume a case. If you're keeping that big VM, you are going to definitely pump the data, a lot of data, and read a lot of data out of it. That's why you made a big machine. So that require better bandwidth capabilities to transfer the data in and out. So only this option is available for the large VMs. If you claim this option, you are paying more for that. The VM cost will increase. Why? Because they are giving the high bandwidth links enabled VM side. It is by default designed. It will go and deploy in that to physical host in the racks, so that the rack is actually connected with the GBPS links in the background. So when you create a very big machines, then only it will be enabled. You can claim it, and so that it can have a better speed in terms of network bandwidth. Is it clear? Yes or no?
Yes.
It comes with the big VMs. That's it. I wanted to say. So management, we discussed board diagnostics, and the other things is still left to talk about. And advanced, we talked about all of this. So now I'm going to create it. So I'm going to create two more VMs very quickly, and then we start the discussion. Right. I made a mistake. What is the mistake I did? Before it goes into submission, deployment, initialization, submission, deployment, you should not click anywhere. If you click, it's gone. The action will be cancelled. This is a very, very important point. You have to wait for the service to be initialized, submitted, and it goes up to deployment. Then only you have to click anywhere. Else your action will be cancelled. The same thing happened with me now. Anyway, quickly do it. You have to wait for that to go into the deployment status. That's very important.
You should not even refresh the system.
Sorry?
You should not even refresh the system.
Yes, you should not do that. That's how it is. You have to wait for that go into the deployment. Then only you refresh, or then only you go out of that window. VNet, subnet, everything is fine, and this is not open, good enough. I'm going to deploy the VM now. So you have to click on the create button, wait for it is initialized, submitted, and go into deployment. If it is started the installation, going to deployment will take hardly few seconds. So if I click on this, I have to wait till what? Installation, submission, deployment. That's it. I can click on now. So if you click before that happens, your action will be cancelled, invalid. So that is usual. It's a good example I did anyway. Okay. You have to wait for that to trigger the installation at least. Before that, if you click somewhere, your action will be discarded. That's how it is. SQL VM02, and I'm going to create the same details. It is within the subnet. I'll show with a diagram it. Everything I do, I'll show it with a diagram. No need to worry. You need to understand today's class. I'm not going to keep it none because we're going to talk about what is none with the first VM anyway. Okay, that's enough. Networking, VNet 1, subnet 1, let it be in the same network. Review and create. Come on. Right, again, I have to look for that at least initialized and submitted. It will take, if it goes into installation, next few seconds, it will go to deployment. You don't have to worry about it. Now, this one, I'm going to place it in the subnet 2. Then we'll start the scenarios. I'll place this VM into subnet 2. Two VMs into subnet 1, one VM in the subnet 2. Then we will see how actually NSG works. Right, first one is created, now good enough. If I'm trying to talk to this machine, I cannot connect to this machine because the NSG will block it. If I come to here, there is no rule actually allowing to come inside the VM. There is inbound rules. This inbound rules will control the what can enter into the VM. Okay. If you click on the VM, there is something called networking. There is an inbound, outbound. Inbound means, let me make a diagram first to better talk about this. We created a network first, a network. Within the network, we created two subnets, right? Here. And here I created two VMs, here one VM. So here the VNet, what we created is 172.20.0.0/16. And here we created a subnet 1 with what IP? 170.20.0.0/24, right? Subnet 2 was, it is just 1 in place of that. That's it. Now SQL VM01 we created, SQL VM02 we created here, and SQL VM03. The IP of this machine is, what is the IP? Can anyone tell? 172.20.1.4. Sorry, it should be 0.4 because that's in the 0. And here 172.20.1.0.5. And here 172.20.1.4. So who is taking care of this IP assignment in the sequential order? There is a DHCP server by default in the cloud. It will take care of the IP assignment in the sequential order. You don't need to worry about that. 4, 5, 6, 7, it will release the IPs in the sequential order. If you wanted to claim some IP, specific IP, you can claim it manually. We'll see that. But for now, how it actually that doing sequentially, by default DHCP service. Fine. One thing, guys, you need to understand this. I am sitting somewhere out of the cloud. This is a cloud Azure. Okay, this is my laptop. I'm sitting somewhere. I wanted to connect to this machine. This is my motto, right? This is an outbound call. I'm going out of the machine to make a call inside this VM. I wanted to enter into this inside this VM. So to enter this into inside the VM, there is a NSG taken place at the subnet level. Actually, we'll talk about that tomorrow. But anyway, there is an NSG associated with the VM. The NSG here is this one, networking inbound roles. Inbound roles is not allowing me to talk to this VM. If I'm trying to talk to this VM, the VM IP is this. You can see that IP 104.211.166.55. If I'm trying to connect to this VM, I cannot connect because this inbound, I don't have my IP going through the inbound. The inbound is not allowing my IP because there is no rule exists to allow. It will throw the error. This communication is actually not authorized. So how do I authorize? I can create a rule called add inbound rule. Anyone in the world who have the internet should connect. For now, I'm defining that way. You should not do this, but I'm going to talk about that a little further. Let's open the wider range of like ports or IPs, and then we'll talk about what should be controlled, what we don't need to control. Kind of, we'll see that. Anyone in the world can connect to my VM, whoever have the internet access, and on what they should connect on the RDP port. right? So there should be RDP. Here it is, RDP. RDP port is 3389. I'm allowing with the priority 100 intentionally, okay? What is the 100 I'm going to talk about anyway, little while. So I'll collapse this also. Let this rule get created. It takes 30 seconds to create. Now, if I am going to talk to the VM, I'll talk. If that rule is into effect, it will take 30 seconds to get into effect, but let's see what it says. Now it is created. It should go through now because just added. It will give me login prompt this time. It should. If not, I'll reheat it. If that rule is may taking a little longer to reflect. Right, see here, it is able to talk to the VM now. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to give the username and password. How did I get this connection? Because I opened 3389 port to talk to the RDP service. Source can be anything in the world. Anyone can talk to this VM because I kept that bad rule. That is a very bad rule, of course, and that is not at all secured. But anyway, I'm going to talk about the standards tomorrow. Today is all about understanding the basics. Okay, tomorrow class is very easy if you understand today's. Right, let me connect to other two VMs also. Then we will talk about case to case so that you understand better. This will connect because I opened the IP. I opened the port, RDP port when I'm creating itself. You can see that here. RDP port 3389 is open for any to any by default. This rule exists here. And the first one it was not because intentionally disable that to show that it won't connect as long as your inbound is actually allowing you to connect. That is called NSG. NSG means Network Security Group. That is going to protect your infrastructure from the traffic. Which one should enter, which one should not enter. Right, these are all getting loaded. Now, if I go back here and check the IP of this machine, it should be 107.20.0.4. It is the first VM, right? SQL VM 01. Let's verify everything, guys. CMD. You can see that. 170.20.0.4. And let's verify on this one. And this is the VM02. It should be 170.20.0.5. And the other one should be 107.20.1.4. You see the machine name here. SQL VM03. It is into different subnet. We kept in a second subnet actually 17.20.1.0/24. So this IP also should load it into this machine also should load it into that IP range. See 17.20.1.4. Now let's do the communications between these VMs. Then I'll come to the outer layer anyway. If I'm trying to ping 172.20.1.4, will it ping? Yes, it will ping. So one thing you need to understand, within the network, all subnets will talk seamlessly. There is no restriction. All subnets without any rule. You did not define a rule to talk. Still, they will talk. Basically, they will talk if you unless until you control the kind of communication. How do you control? We're going to see that anyway. So now if I'm trying to ping 0.5 also, within one network, all subnets will talk seamlessly. That you need to keep in mind. So 0.5 also it is communicating. If I come to this VM, ping other two VMs, 172.20.0.4. Sorry, what happened? 0.4. It is pinging.
One network means what do you mean? Since we created in one resource group?
No. Network of 172.20.0.0. Whatever subnet 255 subnets will come inside that network, right? You're not getting?
No, within a VNet, all will communicate. That's what you mean. No, in the diagram, in the top, you have given a VNet, correct? VNet.
If you see, this is a VNet. This VNet
Yeah,
is
yeah.
forming how many subnets? 255 subnets. All
Okay, okay,
255 subnets will talk to other all IPs within the
okay,
VNet.
okay. Yeah,
Everything is open. Everything can
okay.
communicate.
Yeah, yeah. So VNet is deciding whether it is one network or not.
Yes, VNet. One VNet will not talk to another VNet by default. You have to
Okay,
you have to do the authorization to talk to one network should talk to other network. We have to do that. Comes topic tomorrow. Tomorrow topic, I mean, this is next class on Monday. Okay. So now, if I'm trying to talk to VM03, let's do that. MSTSC 172.20.1.4. It will talk. If it is loading the RDP session means it is able to talk. That's as simple as it is. If I come to this VM and I'm going to go and place this 172.20 sorry 20.0.4, it will talk. There is no restriction as of now. I'm going to restrict anyway. I'm going to show that how you can restrict. So now it is talking both the VMs. So now the rule I wanted to build is this VM should not talk to these two VMs, both of the VMs. I don't want to talk about, or else this VMs should not talk to this one. This two VM should not talk to this VM. So right now, if I go to from here, MSTSC.
Ravi, one minute.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So these two VNets, I mean VMs are talking to each other because of RDP. Is that correct?
Because of the thing that it in one network, within the one network, all subnets will talk on all services, not only RDP.
Right.
It'll work. It'll communicate in all services. You have to block it yourself if you don't want. That is what I'm trying to do now. So these two are
Okay.
talking to this VM right now. I wanted to break this communication. How do I break? So this is an outbound call for this one. This is an outbound call for this one. This is an inbound call for this one. So where I wanted to block is in the inbound of always block in the inbound, not in the outbound. That is what we are following in the environment, in our environment. So these VM should not talk to this VM on the RDP port. We have to block service by service because every service will have its own port. You have to block service by service. All you cannot block at a time. You have to block service by service. I wanted to block RDP service. So what I have to do, I have to go to the SQL VM03 and I'm going to define a rule that the rule is going to tell you that add inbound rule. I wanted to block particular network. What is that network? 172 not net is a subnet network in the sense here. 170.20.0.0/24. I wanted to block entire subnet. Okay. And here, see, IP address we are mentioning it. And on what it has to be denied? It has to deny on the RDP. RDP service, I want deny. Deny. But deny is coming with a priority 310. Okay, what is 310? I'll explain. Okay, let's do it. I created a rule. The rule will take into effect next 30 seconds. If it is taking 30 seconds, to effect, after that, this should not talk to that machine. I created a rule. in the inbound, this entire subnet, whoever part of this subnet, all machines should not talk to this one. Not only VM01 and 2, all of the 255 machines should not talk, 251 machines should not talk to this machine in that subnet. I define a rule on this inbound. So not only these two machines anyway. So here, if you come back here and see, there is a rule. Maybe I better make it. I'll collapse this. I'll collapse this also. Maybe now it is clear for you to see. If you see this one, guys, we made a rule 3389 should be blocked from this network. The source, whoever is coming from this source, fall into this 17.20.0.4, 5, 6 up to 254. All should be blocked, denied. But will it deny? That's the question. It won't deny because there is a rule which is actually created with the priority 300, which is a lower rule. Priority, the rules are validated in the lower priority to higher priority. The first rule is allowing everyone in the world or anyone, it doesn't matter whoever you are. Source can be anything. It will communicate on the RDP port, on the RDP port. If I go and see still, I will communicate, though there is a rule which is actually blocking the communication, but that's not blocking the communication. Why? Because there is a rule at the lower priority which is allowing everyone. So the priority makes very bigger sense here. Creating the rule is one way, and making the rule in the order, right order, is another skill you need to develop. So 300 is actually making everyone to talk. That is the reason there is a rule to deny the connection, but still it is not denying it, because the first rule what exists is actually allowing these VMs to talk. So I don't want that. In that case, I'll make this rule little above this one. I'll make this number to 290, so that this will become the lowest priority now, so that this rule will be validated first before the 300. So whenever your traffic is hitting the VM, first it will go through the inbound rules. If your inbound is allowing you to enter into the VM, that the traffic what it comes from, then only you'll enter, else it will reject the connection there itself. So now you see this one, the priority is 290. The 290 is actually lowest priority, is blocking this entire network. Only this 172.20.0.0, whoever is coming from that, it should be denied. So let's see now. This time it should be denied. Both of the VM, not one. See, it is not reaching anymore. Not only this, even this also won't reach. Entire network we blocked. Okay. 0.5 is blocked, 0.4 is blocked, 0.2 up to 254 are all are blocked. No VM or no network, I mean no IP from this range can hit this machine on this port, because we denied on this port not to receive the traffic from this network. You guys following what I'm trying to say? In the VM03 diagrammatically, if you talk about VM03, I blocked this entire subnet. Whoever the IP is part of this 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 254, they are fully blocked and not to enter into this VM, because we blocked it with a rule saying that 290 is a lower priority and this one. Now I wanted to ask a question. Okay, this entire subnet is blocked on this VM, but I wanted explicitly this one to talk. Explicitly, all 250 VMs should not talk, but one VM should talk. What should I do? This should not talk, but this should talk. What should I do for that?
Set a low priority rule for that number.
That's it. Set a low priority number for that particular IP of the machine.
IP.
Yeah. This time I'll go with the IP address 172.20.0.5. 0.5. Okay, I'm going to allow the RDP. Right, this time I'm going to allow. With the priority, what number I have to go with?
Then 290.
289 something.
280 or 270.
280.
Excellent. You guys, very good if you understand that. It has to be 280. Why? Because if you go with the below 290, this still blocks it. Why? Because the first rule is blocking it. It has to be in the first only. Then only it can communicate. So the entire 250 machines are blocked, but one is opened. So this way, sometimes what happens, guys, so you will have one project in the one subnet, another project in another subnet, all are blocked. But one machine to another machine should open, that is a database server. They need to talk, but the rest should not talk. That's why the discussions will come into picture in the background. This is why you need to have this discussion and you need to understand. So now what 0.5 should talk, but 0.4 should not talk because this is blocking it. So you can check that. So this won't talk. But whereas 0.5 will talk because the lowest rule is allowing it. See, it should if that rule is updated. If not, we'll revisit the rule. It will take some. See, it is loaded. If you go to this one, it won't load. How many times you run, it doesn't matter. It won't load. But this one is actually allowed, so it will load, of course, the username and password because of the rule that you mentioned here. You guys getting it? Yes or no?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll do one more thing to make you understand better. So let's go to here. Next. I'll install the web server on this one quickly. This will make you more clear on this. Then I'll talk about your connections, my connections, everyone connections. We'll talk about that. That way, that is the conclusion of this. It is very simple to understand. Tomorrow class is live networks. We're going to define one network in India, one different network in US, and we're going to authorize the networks, and we're going to do the entire centralized energies, not individual. You cannot go to every VM and define the roles. It's not possible. We are doing the VM level discussions today, but we're going to discuss central firewall, which will protect the entire infrastructure. We're going to see that tomorrow.
So what are we trying to do in this VM? We are just creating the rules or something.
I'm creating a web service. A web service will,
Oh,
now I'll ask a question. I'm creating a web service. Did I block the web services the inbound from this machine, this IPs? No. They will talk on a different port. Web service listening on the port number 80. So every service you have to block explicitly. So it is not something you blocked RDP doesn't mean that it will block everything from this network. So every traffic has its own port and its own service. The service you need to block it manually to not to communicate. If I have this one to not to entirely talk anything on anything, you have to create multiple rules to not to communicate. We're going to see that both. I'll give you more clarity once comes online. Okay. Not to worry. Today is the understanding. Tomorrow I'll conclude with the live discussions. What we can do in the live environment.
so Ravindra, in the real time, we'll be getting any of the criteria from the architect to create these inbound outbound rules. I'm just checking.
You never create. You never create. It's only
Okay.
understanding. It is
Okay.
understanding that if the VMs are not communicating, you yourself can conclude that why they are not communicating. That is the
Yes, yes.
point of discussion here. Right.
Got it.
So now we installed a web service on this one. It will create IA service. You see this one. Now if I go and see, there is a one folder it will create inetpub under www root. Here you'll find a image. This image will load. Before I do that, what is IP? 17.20.1.4. For reading this, I need to disable this because this is going to all the time ask you that this is not trusted kind of thing. I don't want that. Right. So now if I go and try to load that web page, how it look like? 172.20.1.0 is IP. Sorry, 1.4. It will load a web page. See, this is a default page. And I can go and access this page from these two VMs also. I'll disable this. With this, you need to get understanding how rules work. Anyway, I'm going to conclude further. Definitely understand. Right. It load the page. It'll read for sure. Why? Because there is no block on that service from these two machines. So now what I'm going to do on this one, I'm going to make some change in the notepad just to show that it's a VM03 where I'm doing. It's a VM03. This is just to make sure that it is loading from that server. Too big. Fine. Right. Now, if I reload the same page, you'll see the text, the VM03. And here also, because that image itself, it is loading, right? So now what I'm going to do right now, this is actually allowed and there is no block. I wanted to block it. So which port I have to block? It is HTTP call. HTTPS is 443. It's HTTP call. You see HTTP. HTTP comes with the port number 80. Now what if I'm going to go inbound and I'm going to give the IP 170.20.0.0/24 and I'm going to deny on port number HTTP, which is port number 80. I'm denying you the 310. I'm keeping it as it is just to let's see to your understanding what you will say kind of. This rule is got created now with the 310. Will it block? It's a question.
Block.
It will block or it won't block?
No, it won't block.
It will
We need
block.
to.
Yeah, why it will block it, why it won't? Okay, you need to have your own justification. So if you look at guys, how do you read the rule? That's very important. I'll tell you the trick. What we are trying to talk port number 80. If you look at the upper rules are actually talking about 3389. 3389 is related to port number 80. No, it is RDP. This is a web service port. So it can be placed at the bottom of it, still it will reach. Why? Because the rule is talking about port number 80 directly, it will
Different.
start the validation from here. Why? Because these are different port. It does not apply to that. I denied it, it should be denied. Because though it is at the 310, doesn't matter because it can reach directly because this is where the port number 80 rule is starting, right? It's not port number 80. It will reach here. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to validate this. It should not load. See, it is spinning the wheel. If I go on here also, it should not load. You'll see that error, not able to reach the page because you blocked that service to not to reach on this server. You blocked it on the VM03 to not to reach from that one, right? Getting it right? Yes or no? See here guys, thing is you have to block whatever you wanted to block, whatever the network basically. There should be clear cut instructions. This belong to one project, this belong to one project. This project should talk or not. There is agreements between the different project, different bodies within the company. They operate a different rules, set of rules within the company itself because they are dealing with the different business types basically. So they need to talk or they no need to talk defined by them itself. So when they define, based on that rules will be created. The rules will block how you wanted to communicate. Can any, I'll ask one question here. Can everybody can go and hit this IP? Everybody. I'm keeping the IP in the chart. Just pick up the IP and go to MSTSC and connect. It will load it will load the RDP session for everyone. Go and check. Let me know. Hit that IP and tell me that you are getting the RDP session. You should get it because I did not block anyone here. There is a rule with the 300, allow everyone in the world. Can everybody hit it and let me know? You guys hitting this IP? Yes, Raja is getting. Everybody just ping me that's enough at least. If you don't want to respond, pinging is also enough. You should get RDP loaded with this IP. Just there. Yeah, I can. Everyone please quickly. Yes, yes, very good, very good. Now I'm going to block all of you at once with the same rule. I have a rule which is opening everyone in the world because I kept anyone. So now I'll go to my public IP. See, how do I find a public IP of my machine? Is it possible from the command prompt? No, you cannot find the public IP from the command prompt, guys. One more thing. It will only give you the private IPs. Whatever the private IPs you have got through your ISP, internet provider, it is giving the private IPs only, not the public IPs at all. So how do I find the public IP? You can find it from the browser only when you have the internet. What's my IP address? This is what is going to give your IP address. So now I'm going to allow myself. I'm going to block everyone. So I'm giving the specific IP, okay, and then updating it. Except me, no one should make a connection now. Just wait for 30 seconds and then reheat everyone. For everyone doesn't work. I'm modifying a rule called this one. Any to specific source of public IP should be allowed, not anyone. To this VM from the external world, I am only the one can connect. Whole world cannot connect. If I change from any to this particular IP. So it will take into effect. Though, like it is, these two IPs does not belong to you. So it will directly come to here. It is validated first rule. This IP is not your range. This IP you not, it will reach here. Okay. If it is reaching here, RDP, this also not going to allow you. So your traffic is fully rejected. Now go and hit everyone. No one should get the RDP anymore. Check out. No one. Check out and update me because I blocked all of you except me. Everybody checking? Just keep in the chat. That's also enough. Try to hit that IP again. No, I can't. Everyone should not do that. Update it in the chat. That's enough at least. This is going 2 times again. Jyoti, you are able to connect, you mean to say? Everybody should not connect, guys. As simple as it is. Yes. No. Good enough. Thank you for the responses. So why you cannot connect? Because I blocked all of you. I absolutely blocked. You can see that. The IP is only allowing me. So if I go back, I disconnect here. Okay. I'm going to disconnect my connection from this machine. If I'm trying to reconnect, it will connect me only. You can see that because my IP is allowed. So, sorry, there is IP. I have to make connection. I'll block myself also. I'll show that so that you understand. So this one, you see this one? It is launching me. This means I can reach that IP. Now I wanted to block myself or anyone. Sorry, no one should connect to this one. This one. I'll go and deny it. I'm denying it. Okay. I'll deny anyone, not only me, the entire world I want to deny. Any. Anyone can be denied. Only these two networks are whitelisted. Everything is denied on the RDP. No other network can communicate. Okay. Now if I am trying to talk to VM03, the same IP, you see this one, 104.211.164.91. If I'm trying to hit, it should not anymore. Not only me, no one except these two networks can communicate. So if you understand this flow, it is easy to understand tomorrow class. Dead simple. So now if I look at this one, I cannot do that. Even if I do one more thing, you have to answer this one. I'm making this to the same number to 270. What happens in this case? Can anyone tell? If I'm making 270, what happens? You need to answer. This was no 290. Now I made it to 270. So what happens in this case?
So it will deny the RDP, right? Because this is the first priority.
Right. Everybody denied. Everybody denied. If you look at the first one, everybody are denied with this because the first rule itself is blocking the every RDP. This one is allowed, right? This one is allowed. 280 is allowed, but still that also won't communicate because it's not only any source. It doesn't matter. It has to be a denied kind of internally. Let's see how it works. This one, it is also denied. We explicitly allowed this one with the priority 280. It is still denied. Why? Because the first rule, the lowest rule, is actually denied everyone. You need to read the rules this way, guys. There are hundreds of rules. How do I read? That's a question, right? What is the service you're trying to look at? That you need to look at. The port. There will be hundreds you don't care about. What do you care about? The port. What port we are trying to talk about? 3389. Getting it right?
For each service, do we have different ports, right?
Yes, yes. For
Okay.
each service, you can see if you go to here, there is a list of services. If you talk about Postgres, has a 5432 is a default.
443.
If you go to SSH 22 port number, if I go to any other service, every service has its own port. Everything is there. MongoDB, what is the port number? Anybody knows? 21017 default port. So Elasticsearch has these are the ports it usually uses. If you wanted to block them, block them. That way it is.
Okay.
You have to block explicitly every service. Then only they will get explicitly denied. Else they will communicate. If I remove this thing, this will communicate. Only this one. If I make this one, this value also like 300 again, 300 again. And now things are opened. 3389 only one. This particular IP is open. No machine can talk to this machine except this machine. No one on the RDP especially. There are only three rules with the RDP exist, and these are two are talking about the deny. Only one is allowing. Allowing is only one IP. Not me, not you. No one can connect, but this machine can connect to that one. It's 0.5 only, right? It should, because the rule is in the top. So anyway, it takes some time, but it will talk for sure. Now I'll ask one more thing before I close. Oh, it should not. It should talk. That's the rule. It takes 30 seconds. You have to be little patient, guys. When you just don't conclude instantly. See, it is loading. It is loading means it is able to talk. Now even I cannot talk to that machine. That is because of no one is allowed. But I can allow myself by giving my public IP address that I have seen. Can anyone else is ping your IP address? I'll allow you along with me. Multiple IPs we can allow if you wanted. So if I'm trying to talk to VM03, SQL VM0, I'm not able to because my IP is not allowed. Now I'm going to allow the IP. Can anyone also ping your public IP? How do you get the public IP? Go to browser, type what's my IP address. You'll get it. Vijay Shankar, thank you. Enough. One is enough. This is a purely public IP. How do I say this? Public IP? Is it falling under these ranges? No. Whatever the IP is what we discussed. It's not 10. It's not 170. It's not 192. Then it is a public IP. That way you can conclude. It is a public IP. So now I'm going to allow a Vijay Shankar IP also along with mine. Okay, one is enough. Anyway, I can add that also. So I'm keeping here comma. I'm going to keep one more. Venkat. Two people ping me. This is also public IP. By looking at the IP itself, we can say that it is a public or private. Anyway. So I'm allowing three people along with me, two people. Three IPs can be allowed like this, comma separated. Yes, you can do that. Right. I have allowed the source from these IPs should make a connection. Or it is denied, sorry. I have to allow this one instead of deny. All right. Now I can talk and Vijay can talk and Venkat can talk. No one else. Try everyone again. So it takes just a minute. Let me check first. Right. It should load for both of you. Vijay and Venkat, please check an update. Yes, I can. Venkat is saying you should. Vijay, can you update yours also, please? Because I added your IP also. You should connect. Vijay, can you check quickly? Shankar, I mean Vijay Shankar. Still trying. Okay. You should talk.
No, it didn't allow. I don't know.
Try again. Is it your public IP only, right? This one? 122, 178, 22. Are you in your office laptop?
One second, because I by mistake I given my own my IP. That's it. Yeah, it's allowing. Yeah, it's allowing to 104 to 11 164 91. Yeah.
Right. Why it is allowed? Because I allowed three IPs only from the external world. Right. This way, you can control the traffic. Who can talk to the VM? Who cannot talk to the VM? From the internal, external. We're going to see that. Internal also we can block it. We blocked this internal IPs. We only allowed only one IP. From the external, only these three guys can talk to the VM. So you have the full control with the NSG, network security group. This NSG is a network security. You see, network security group attached to this VM. This is protecting the VM to not to accept what is not authorized basically. Every connection, every traffic is going through the NSG. NSG is taking care of who one has to be allowed, who should not be allowed by default. So it is verifying it and then releasing the communication inside the VM. So this is how the protection can happen at the VM level. We are going to see more in detail tomorrow. Today you got the basic idea how things work for you here. But tomorrow, I'm going to talk about live corporate networks, how really the networks can be implemented in the real world. You got the basic idea, right, everyone? How things can be blocked, how things can be opened.
This priority and
Yes.
port numbers are pre-assigned, or
Now you have to give it, the priority start with 100, it will end with the 4096.
we can
So
give it in between that.
yes, we can give it.
What
But the
about
number,
port numbers?
can you come again about?
Port numbers are pre-assigned, or we have to give this also? Port.
See, every service will have its own port, so we have to give it to block that
So,
service. Every service, if you RDP service, you take about ping also uses a port number 7. So everything has its own port. The port you have to block that service. Okay, everybody clear? Yes or no?
This
Yes.
pinging port number 7, you told, will it harm anything?
No, no, ping does not harm. We don't block that. We'll keep it open only. So you would have seen, guys, we would have seen in your real life that you can ping, but you cannot connect to that server. Did you ever seen that? Many times you would have seen. You can ping, but you cannot connect. You guys seen or not seen?
Yes, yes.
The usual case. Why you
Yes,
cannot
yes, yes.
connect? Ping is
We'll
open by
just check.
default. Yeah,
We'll just check it is online. I mean, it is reachable or not,
yeah,
right?
but
Through ping.
you cannot connect because
Yeah.
your RDP is not enabled for you, kind of. The rules, the IPs are not allowing the rule set. So you need to contact the networking team. They'll allow you if at all you wanted. You are authorized, kind of. Okay. So these are all, even in the on-prem also the same thing will happen, but that you don't have visibility. In the cloud, you have full visibility. That is why you need to know all of this towards the product also. Because sometimes, the projects will build the project, all of a sudden they wanted to talk to one server to the server. The communication already broken, but now they wanted it. So right now I can go to any network rule. I can tell them that this won't talk by myself. This won't talk because there is no communication open between these two VMs for the database connectivity. So go and talk to a networking team. I can see we are handling the database. Mostly people come to us. This server should talk to this server. I wanted the data communication from this to this. So when you know things well, you can simply can do it. That's the point of discussion, all of this. Okay. So that's all for today, guys. Any questions before I stop the video? One thing I want to talk about before I close this, just a minute. There is something called resource group. Now this makes sense to make you understand. Just a minute, someone posted something. While doing practical creating modification part, please go a little slow. This is slow only. We're not going fast actually, Venkat. We're not going too fast today. Okay, fine. So now if you look at guys, there is something called network watcher RG. Whenever you create a VNet, this VNet, private network, this will create automatically. It's not under your control, okay? This is not under your control. This is something created when you create a VNet, as simple as it is. The VNet is created, this will create what it is basically. It is going to monitor your network for the Microsoft. See, you are creating network, private network. Private network actually internally, they have the cabling. They are making the communication internally using those IPs. Their network cables are there. They are communicating it. So if the communication is broken, for some reason networks are unplugged or something is happened, we definitely have to notice. They have to get noticed. For that, it is created not for you. Network watcher RG is created for the Microsoft sake, not for our sake, because we are creating some networks, internal network. The internal network means internally VMs are communicating through the cables. If any cable is broken, they'll get the alert. To monitor your network, they are created one network resource group. Through this, they'll monitor your network health. So it's not for you, it is for the Microsoft. Don't delete this. Even you delete also, there is no harm, but Microsoft cannot get the alerts if something goes wrong with your internal networking. Getting the problem? I mean, getting the point here, what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So this is not for you, it's for the Microsoft. If I create a one more network in different region, one more one more network will be created in that region. For every region, it will add up one network. Resource group is only one, but under that you will see that different. Let me create, just stay back. I'll create one network intentionally in a different region. So intentionally, it's not the case of discussion now, but anyway, I'm going to create a VNet 10, whatever it is. I'm going to create in South India or any part of the globe, doesn't matter, Central India, whatever it is. I'm creating a different network here, which should be a private. So 192.168.0.0/16. I'm going to create one subnet, sub 1, 192.168.2.0/24, one subnet. I'm creating a network. So it is a different region altogether. So it will create one more network RG. I mean, the resource group is only one, but inside that you'll see one more. Let me show that. It will create quickly because it has to monitor there also. All your region networks will be monitored by the internal networking by the Microsoft using this. So don't delete this. Even you delete, you don't feel the harm right now, but maybe something is down in the background. The Microsoft will not get to know. It should show here. Just a minute. Every region network will form one networker watcher in there for that region. See here, you can see that. Networker watcher West India, network watcher Central India. Every region you create. So they're watching your network, health of the network, not something you're transferring. The health what you are using for your environment. Is it clear?
When you delete the VNet, it will delete.
No, it won't delete. You have to delete it manually. So I'm
Got
deleting everything here. So better to delete that also when you're deleting this, and I'm deleting this also. So guys,
I have deleted everything, but still that billing is coming to 3 rupees per day. I have deleted network watcher, everything I have deleted.
that comes, the bill what you are seeing is 1 hour before the utilization, not now. Okay, it update after 1 hour. So I'm
No, no,
using a lot of
since 2 days I didn't touch. So still earlier it was 6 rupees, now it become 11 rupees. So what is the reason? Any idea?
you created something that bill was updated lately. Without that, there is no bill at all. Take some time to reflect.
Okay, so if I didn't touch 11 rupee will not alter. That's what you
Okay.
mean?
Yes,
Okay.
you should not touch, and there should not be there anything in the resource group. It should be empty. Then you
Yeah,
don't get anything.
even network watcher also has not be there, no?
Yes, everything you have to delete.
Yeah, delete everything. Yeah, okay,
You wait for 2 days, you don't get any bill. It will be 11 rupees only. Okay.
okay.
So
Okay, some shopping.
while creating VNets, every time we have to give this IP address. It won't take by default.
It will take 10.0.0.0. If you want it, keep it. But if you can claim anything that you wanted within these ranges, but only
Yes.
once you
Otherwise,
can create.
either subnet or like virtual network, it will take automatically. I mean, by default if you are not giving also.
You have to give it.
We have to
You have
give
to
within
give
the
it.
range.
Right, within that range. That's correct. All right, that's all for today, guys. Just right after the practice, keep a habit of deleting it. It's always recommended. Else you get unnecessary bill. You have to pay it. Or at least once you can reimburse, but not all the time. So keep in mind. It's your choice to control the bill also. So
How to
delete it.
completely demolish the account after
Acco-
practice after 1 month free trial?
Okay, you wanted to cancel the subscription, go to subscription, click on the subscription. There is something called cancel subscription that will completely shut down your account.
After that, we don't get any bill.
Yes.
Okay.
You don't get the bill even if it is active, but you are not using it. No need to worry. So it is 627 rupees only. It was showing 14, but that was the wrong one. When I started our class, my bill was 600 rupees, 611 rupees something. So after all these classes, how much I got? Maybe 20 rupees. That's it. That way you
Yeah,
have to
Ravinder.
control it. Yeah, go ahead.
So we have talked about the A class, B class, C class IPs, right? So I mean,
Mhm.
in the real world, how I mean they will decide which thing we can
You
do.
don't worry. You don't worry about that. It is only understanding.
Okay,
That is a very big
okay,
topic again. Okay. What
Fine.
they decide on what networks they wanted, that level we don't go. We need to understand how these things are working. That's it. That is a big subject altogether.
Fine. No problem.
Yeah.
Is tomorrow is